So let's review Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 3, talk about what could happen in other shows, and break down that crazy theory that there is a Volume 4. Going into it, I didn't think this episode was going to be bad, but more just an episode that didn't take risks and was more just a big nothing episode. And after watching it, I do think it leaned more into that. For a lot of people, them just fizzing out like a sparkler, and what felt like them really trying not to upset anyone is enough, and that makes it a good ending. But in doing that, it just made itself unremarkable. A show like Stranger Things should have done a lot more than just a revamped Season 3 finale. People that wanted more out of it are people that just wanted to see more struggle and consequence. Even when they did show consequence, they played the uncertainty card at the end. The good guys won in the first hour of the episode, and everything else just ended happily, genuinely leading people to even feel like it was eerie and off since they beat Vecna. Now when I say consequence, and you've seen a lot of people say stakes and jeopardy, I don't just mean deaths. Vecna said he wanted to reshape the world, so effectively end what they knew of the world and make it the mind flayers, so that should be a stake in itself, but of course it's not, because every MCU movie ever is about saving the world. That wasn't going to happen. There didn't need to be loads of deaths or a death, but where were the Demogorgons? Now that the main characters were in the place where they resided, the Demobats that were clearly only ever there to kill Eddie, the Demodogs that tore through soldiers but were dumb and weak around the main characters. Matt Duffer said Vecna just didn't expect it, and that because the Mind Flayer was this big creature anyway, he wouldn't need, as he puts it, the ant army. But it's funny he said ants, because the Mind Flayer just turned into a big dumb beetle. It is really hard to believe that all these demos appearing in the series doing stuff for Vecna, they wouldn't be there to assure stuff like this didn't happen. Did he not think it was possible that Eleven could infiltrate his mind and interfere with what he was doing? The Duffers said they also entertained a redemption arc for Vecna, which I would have loved. For all the wrong he's done, he saves them and he tries to undo what he's done with the Mind Flayer, and would likely die doing it. That would have been amazing, but we just got the ultimate Marvel good guys beat bad guys thing, and I feel like Stranger Things is so much more complex. It could have been so much more. Of course, the whole point of it though is they showed Henry was weak, not just in losing to them physically, but when he refused to resist the Mind Flayer. We saw Will and others resist the Mind Flayer, but Henry was the kid that didn't. He didn't resist it or overcome it, so that makes sense. That was a good bottom line.
How about thank you for destroying the Huey?
I'm so sorry.
No, but actually thank him though. No one cares about your little friend they brought back to die. Thank the funny one that actually carried the episode a bit. The scene with Hopper and Vecna was really cool. This showed one of the, perhaps of few, coolest things about Vecna. That was sadly the only thing Vecna did. Now my thinking is I'm not going to just be impressed by them flashing about the CGI creature for a bit and say it's the best episode ever, like I've seen so many people have. It feels like the writers knew it would be very easy to please with that. We've all seen cool animation before. It isn't enough when it didn't do anything. It actually more resembled a giant beetle than arachnid or scary monster that was teased. Just a giant dumb beetle. Promoted. I was into it at first, but then I saw this scene with Nancy and I just had no excitement for it. And the truth of it is that Vecna didn't do anything either. And I mean anything would have been good. Injure 11, injure Lucas or Steve. The show went on for 9 years. It starts to feel lame when you show there is no danger and you get used to it and kind of accepted this was them defeating the villains in the first hour. The rest was one big, almost unearned happy ending. I'm hoping the Mind Flayer is still out there somewhere. So they win and we see an 18 months time jump, and then we see the older kid characters dressed like 60-year-olds and they've all moved on. Hopper engages to Joyce and the main group play one last game of Dungeons and Dragons. But of course, just before this, they inserted an aspect of uncertainty like The Sopranos did, and a bit like Breaking Bad in the way they make it bittersweet, where it leaves the question open, is 11 really alive?
How do we know it's true? We don't, but I choose to believe that it is.
Why would he only reveal this after 18 months to them? Why wouldn't he discuss this with Hopper? Especially after Hopper gave him that monologue about grief. Maybe the reason we didn't see a more devastated Hopper is because he knew too. He was already informed before. And that's why Mike revealed it here, because he had just found out. The Duffer brothers say 11 had to go so that other characters could move on, but if the Upside Down was gone, why couldn't she stick around? It just felt like they needed an impactful thing to happen because nothing else was. I feel like it would have been more fulfilling to have Hopper get another chance at having a daughter, but they seem to have sacrificed that for that predictable ending of her dying, closing the Upside Down. Bro emoted again. I think a big issue is still that 11, the primary target, the reason for them being stopped, just walked off, especially when she was being kryptonited. Also, the only way she would have been able to speak to Mike like this is if she was out of the range of the frequency that would have normally stopped her, so that's quite a big thing. That kind of staples she was where she was when she died, and it wasn't an illusion. Either way, I think this is them just not wanting to take risks. That's why no one big died like that either. They wanted to have Elle die, but didn't want to commit in case people thought it was bad. This allows them to have a foot on both sides of the fence without upsetting people and becoming like the dreaded Game of Thrones ending, which again, at least actually did stuff in its final season. Again, they didn't have to kill everyone, but if they just went full throttle and showed a consequential final season where beating Vecna and the Mind Flayer really took everything, I think that's what I would prefer over staying safe. Now, this scene with 11 at the end was filmed in Iceland, and it's not known if it was set in Iceland too or just an isolated place still in the US, but either way, I interpreted it as the whole point she's there is because it's isolated. She won't be found and used by Dr. K or the likes of Dr. K. She gets to live a normal life so long as she's not found out and is assumed dead still by those that could use her. She was also wearing her season 1 colour palette, which could be referencing season 1, also showing that that's how Mike's imagining her. Now, Mike told her before that they should go to a place with 3 waterfalls after they've beat Vecna.
Travel to a faraway land, somewhere beautiful, with like 3 waterfalls or something.
So the fact she ends up in a place with 3 waterfalls means likely 2 things. 1, she did really make it there, but 2...
Do you think that could be real for us?
Of course. I mean, not the 3 waterfalls part.
It's Mike imagining it. She's in a place of fantasy. This was annoying to me. Look at my new scars, I'm such a warrior. I'm not really sure why they kept doing this with this character. They tried giving her all these epic scenes, like really obviously every opportunity they can to even have her on screen. She really wasn't some admirable mum character either. I would have preferred if they tried to make Vecna cooler than her. Since that weird wine bottle moment where she appeared to do more damage than a military base, it comes off as quite odd, just the continuous wanting to make her a thing. Of course, something exciting is there are spin-offs happening. The Duffers have said new locations and new characters, but the clues we got in this episode actually hint to New York, and even though the Duffer brothers have said the next show will be set with different characters, a lot of the characters from the original show could definitely appear, and I think they will at some point, because so many of them moved or will be moving to New York.
I had a call from my buddy in the New York days. Montauk's looking for a new chief of police. Kids would be closer.
So with him saying that, we could see Montauk for the spin-off and probably early 90s or 2000s. It's actually what Stranger Things was based on. Of course, it was based on the CIA's Project MKUltra, which involved mind control experiments and incorporate elements of the urban legend known as the Montauk Project. And of course, there's also stuff about a Montauk monster, which was a real thing that was found, which inspired the likes of the Demogorgon too. So is this more nodding to the real life one, or is it teasing that Hopper will go on to be in another show in Montauk, with this whole other mythology that the Duffers teased? Spin-offs are happening either way, which is really exciting, and takes what was a really sad ending to me. Not a bad ending, but just the way they did it was sad, and makes it more exciting. I don't think they ever needed to make it as sad as it was. It's almost like they relied on the nostalgia and the sadness. Now, of course, this is all under the idea that this really is the ending. I'm gonna make a video covering the whole thing, because it is insane and terrifying, but there's basically a theory that suggests this wasn't the real finale, and there will be another one of Volume 4 showing what really happened, because after they beat Vecna, stuff starts to feel a bit eerie, a bit too good, combined with stuff that doesn't really fit that we've seen in this season.
I don't know about you guys, but I don't believe in coincidences.
The theories basically all point to Vecna did win and has put them into recycled memories. Something I noticed is after 11 goes, it cuts to black and we hear a heartbeat. And then what mimics a clock. But of course it's revealed to be a man hitting bricks into place. When Holly was exploring her memories, she noticed the colour of the circle on the roundabout was a different colour, which is how she knew it was an error in the memory. So the show did teach that little things like that being wrong does matter. And later we will see the dial of the power for the radio tower again, but this time it's red. When we last saw it in episode 1, it was grey. Something in the end, the kids all became the worst versions of themselves. The concept of Nancy and Mike looking just like their parents is because this is the worst outcome, and that's the easiest way for Vecna to recreate them in a false future. They both turned into their parents, the thing they were most afraid of becoming. Max said she doesn't want to be like her brother Billy.
I do not want to be like him, ever.
But in the last scene, she was.
And you know what happens when you disobey me. I break things.
A waste of time! Ah!
And I thought that was a really forced part of that scene to begin with, so that would make it make sense if they were just trying to make her like Billy. Some think it alludes to Will smoking, which he didn't like that his mum did. Dustin is flirting with a girl who wouldn't talk to him years ago. Robin calls Vicky overbearing. Steve is a baseball coach now when his sport in his school was basketball. People have also mentioned how the Wheelers have hair like Henry did now, apart from Holly. In Indiana in the 80s, at graduation they would wear black, but they've got orange robes on here, which would be fine, but Nancy mentioned them being green robes in her book. They're all wearing orange like prisoners do, like they're not free, and their hands are all placed like Henry used to do. There's also people looking at the camera, which is genuinely really chilling. The ring that Hopper had is the same one that Nancy and Jonathan left in the Upside Down. At the graduation, Mike pauses and stares at the speakers, which was confirmed by Matt Duffer to be Mike realising that there was the kryptonite where Elle was, so she couldn't have possibly made it all the way to the gate. And it also sounds like footsteps. Like what caught Mike's attention was the sound of the Mind Flayer's big footsteps. As he heard it walking, he was distracted from this reality. There's people saying Mike's style at the end mirrors Henry, which is a whole rabbit hole with how Mike has represented him before. Derek awkwardly waved at Mike like Holly waved at Henry when she knew him as Mr. Whatsit. In Hopper's cabin there's a Whatsit box. And of course at the end Max and everyone comments on how this ending, Comfort and Happiness, is boring and simple with plot holes in it. The actor for Mike, Finn Wolfhard, posted this on his story of his books in a different order to what happened in the scene. In this picture he took, you can spell out X a lie. Some even saying that if Elle's book was there, it would say alive. In season 2, the X was the place where the Mind Flayer was, and we know that that place is the Abyss, Dimension X. There was also an Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade reference, as he says in that movie, X never ever marks the spot. In the end credits, in the drawing of Max running away from Vecna, it says JK95, which people think could mean Just Kidding Season 5 Episode 9. The Thessal Hydra, the three-headed dragon, was teased to be the final monster. We didn't get exactly that, but the Thessal Hydra can regenerate its heads. Vecna got his head taken off. And the False Hydra in D&D is a monster known to mix up memories and make you forget things with its mind song, fooling you into thinking it's the actual Hydra. And look at what we see in the finale, that really looks like the False Hydra. At the place, they get to Henry through a theatre curtain, like it was all for show. They're being led there by the False Hydra. Talking of D&D, the Elder Brains is a monster that is the final cycle of the Mind Flayer that can give those under sleep a full sense of reality. There's a Little Shop of Horrors poster behind Mike in Will's room, a movie that famously has two endings. The happy ending where the good characters win, but also the original darker ending where they are eaten and the plants take over the world. You could listen to the WSQK radio station and it has all sorts of hidden messages on it when you rewind it and slow it down. And of course, after the main credits, we see the player's manual with a number 4 hidden behind the cover, but also one next to Mike. And the D&D die is rolled on number 7. There is said to be a special announcement from Netflix on the 7th. The song that plays at the end, Heroes, also played when they found Will's fake body, when they thought it was the end, but it was a trick. After each episode released, the social medias would post the title card, and after chapter 8 they posted a black screen as if to show the unannounced next chapter. That's all I'm going to go over right now because it's insane how much there is, and I think it requires its own video to really put it all out. But how interesting is that? If they did this, it would be the biggest thing a TV show has ever done. Even if it's not revealed in another whole episode, and it's a bit like The Sopranos in the way that there's just clues there that you can look for underneath it, that still counts and it's still interesting. What did you think of the ending or the season overall? What do you want to see in the spin-off shows? Let me know what you think down below. Of course, press the like button on the video if you enjoyed it, and of course make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell set to all so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.